So I'm looking for a guy to do a comic book show with. Looks like this. And then maybe like another one. So I'm thinking something like this.
Well, I'm looking for a little guy to do shows like this.
Not tiny.
This episode of iFanboy is brought to you by Squarespace and Gamefly. Check out www.gamefly.com/iFanboy to get a free trial account.
Welcome to iFanboy, the comic book discussion show from the website iFanboy.com. My name is Connor Kilpatrick, and I'm here with...
I'm Ron Richards.
And...
I'm Josh Flanagan, and we're here to talk about Scott Pilgrim.
The end of an era.
We did a Scott Pilgrim show before. We talked... Okay. We did a Scott Pilgrim show before. We talked about the books up to the point where they hadn't ended yet.
I think the first 5 volumes.
Yeah, but since then, the last one has come out, and then... The movie, I guess.
The movie came out as well.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about both of those things. But as always, the show's about comics, so we have to start with the comic.
Yep.
Yes.
Books.
And spoiler warnings, because we're talking about the whole series in the last book, so...
Right, exactly. So
That's
if you haven't
true.
read the series, you might want to press pause. Also, we previously talked about the first 5, so go back and watch that episode, because we're not going to recap the first 5.
Yeah, we're mostly going to talk about the 6 and then how it was overall, but not so much the first 5.
Exactly.
Scott's dating a girl, meets another girl, likes her. She's all whacked out. He has to fight her evil exes.
And
Then they live together, and then they break up. Which brings us to 6.
Scott Pilgrim is the brainchild of Brian Lee O'Malley, the Canadian artist, cartoonist. He wrote and drew it, and Oni Press published it. And probably one of the biggest, most important books of the comic book world in the last 10 years.
We've been saying this is the Harry Potter of comics, as far as I'm concerned. This is like one of the most important comics of the past decade.
I think it's the most, but that's my...
I think it's one of the most.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely,
Talking to comic store, it's the most important book.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so the volume 6 came out.
Not any comic store. The one by me.
Yeah.
Volume 6 came out, and they were scrambling to get it out before the movie came out. It shipped the week of San Diego Comic-Con, and it shot up like on the Amazon chart to like number 4, I think, at some point.
Last I saw it was 6, but it may have gone.
And there were release parties, like midnight release parties in LA and New York and Toronto.
There was 125 of them all across the country.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. Like the Toronto one I saw pictures from, that was the one where Brian Lee O'Malley, because his hometown where he was been living, it's set in Toronto. And like there were hundreds of kids dressed up in costume. Like
I can never tell when somebody's in a Scott Pilgrim costume because they just look like what clothes
cool.
the kid. Yeah. Everyone's sort of like, that's a Ramona costume. I was like,
No,
I guess it is.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that.
It's the bag with the star. If you see the
guess.
bag with the star, then it's a Ramona costume. Yeah, but like Scott, it's just a
Dude in a
slacker.
t-shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
The shaggy hair.
You can't be like, well, it doesn't look like Michael Cera. I don't know. It just looks every dude.
So the volume 6 came out, and I know as soon as we could get our hands on it, we read it because I wanted to see how it ended. And all in all, when people ask me what I thought of it, my response is, it ended. It wasn't bad. I didn't think it was bad. I didn't think it was great. I didn't think it was the greatest volume of the 6.
Well, before that, you and I really loved it, and you loved it a little less than we did, right?
I liked it plenty.
No, but I mean the whole series.
Listen, he's like, I like it.
No, I mean the whole series.
Yeah, I mean, I don't make it sound like I didn't like it.
No.
You
like it, but not as much.
I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's not my favorite thing on earth, but I'm really. I laugh at. I think it's funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's funnier now than I did when I started to. Like I like it more than I did.
Yeah, and I actually believe that that's one aspect of, if you look at how O'Malley's improved, both like we've talked about, he's improved on the art side, but then also like the comedy timing in this volume was right on. Like, I found myself laughing out loud at least 4 or 5 times.
A lot, that's definitely true.
And a lot of it wasn't even the main characters; it was the little asides so that I don't know, that made me laugh. But
structurally, he's really good at using the page. A joke would start and you turn the page for the punchline, or he would or the panels would get smaller.
Well, he was never afraid of those asides,
Yeah.
I guess, which is, it's technically a storytelling no-no.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter, but the whole book kind of doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, I feel like if I was to sit here and ask Brian Lee O'Malley, like, so what was the theme of the whole book? He would be like,
He would just touch your head.
Yeah, he would just
like,
pat your head.
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Well, it's always been a little bit unusual. And he's always used there's always been a meta portion of the book. The book always talks to you a little bit.
Yeah.
And
a lot in this one.
Yeah, it's more so in
I
this
thought
one.
that was in volume 3. No, that was 5.
Yeah. That was. There was a lot of fourth wall breaking.
I had the feeling of sort of stumbling to the finish line. like really just wanted to get it over with.
A little bit. I mean, like we were looking at it. We were like, here's volume 1 and here's volume 6, and we compared the thickness. Yeah. And 6 is thick. Like he packed a lot in.
Well, the second half was just a big action sequence.
Yeah, but I almost feel as if like if the movie wasn't happening.
It could have been 7.
It could have been 7 volumes. I could see him breaking this up into 2. And also, my biggest criticism of it is that a lot of like the bigger concept, like the headspace and where they went and stuff like that, was just kind of like not really thought out, or just like here it is.
I don't think it ever was.
Yeah,
I think it was that you got to the end of it.
point where he's like, I've got to explain it.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's actually what I felt about the whole thing is that it ended because it had to end. There had to be an ending, but the whole book never really felt like you were on a narrative. The whole series never really felt you were on a narrative anyway. So when there was an ending, you're like, okay,
it just ended.
It's over.
So to me, the more fantastical elements are not necessarily as important. They were just sort of the stuff that's going on around the people, which is why I thought 5 was the high point, because 5 was all about the people, and the wacky elements were in the background.
Yep, exactly.
The fights happened almost. One of the fights with the happened in the background.
Yeah, he just walked.
Yeah, you're right.
And so then all of the stuff that was built up, the relationships, the fact that he and Ramona, Scott and Ramona suddenly realized they maybe weren't good for each other, was just totally ignored in 6.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like all the stuff with maybe he really liked Kim, and all the stuff that him not growing up, and just it was like never happening.
Well, no. I mean, it happened, but it just got dealt with very quickly. Like, I mean, your big prediction was that there was going to be a swerve, and he wasn't going to end up with Ramona, and then he was going to end up.
Well, because in 5 it was kind of like we don't like each other, we have nothing in common.
Right. Yeah.
But that happens. That's the thing about it, is like underneath all of that like crud.
Yeah.
I don't mean crud, that's a bad word, but like just all that other stuff that is going on, like there is a real story about how an actual young relationship works, and I think that one of the things that happens in a relationship that you're like, oh my god, this is amazing, and then after a little while you go, crap, we have to figure out how to make this work, and then you almost rebel against it a little bit, and I think that's what happened there. And obviously, like, Ramona's theme was that she's always running away and pushing away and doing everything, and so he tried to justify that, and so he went to Knives and he went to Kim, and he's like, oh, okay, well that's not the issue either, and so like they solved it.
I felt like a lot of this book was just wrapping up stuff. Like he dealt with his issues with